Bible class, Clarksville Highway Church of Christ. I'm Jeff Henry. I'm the youth minister here at Clarksville Highway. This is Jackson Shamblin. He's the youth minister over at Jolton Church of Christ. And so he's going to join us tonight for 2 Kings chapter 5 and 6. It's what we're going to jump into. So we'll give a few minutes, a couple of seconds for everyone to join in here before we get started recapping from last week. I can confirm we are live, so that's a good thing. We're monitoring chats on several of these devices here, and so if you have any questions, comments, concerns, definitely share those with us. So, like I said, 2 Kings chapter 5 and 6 tonight. Before we get into that, we're going to jump into a review from last week on 2 Kings 3 and 4. There we are. All right. Just got to get all the right buttons pushed here. So, chapter 3 and 4 is what we went over last week, or not us, but Joe and Greg. And so, chapter 3 and 4, there's just like about 4 things in there. Chapter 3 was all about Moab's rebellion. Moab rebelled against Israel, and so that was pretty much all of chapter 3. Chapter 4 was 3 miracles by Elisha. The first one was Elisha and the widow's oil. He blessed her oil and made sure that it would not dry up. That as long as there was jars, that there would be oil still. And then the second thing is that Elijah raises the Shunammite woman's son, and so Elijah, the Shunammite woman's son has died. Elijah is sent over there. He lays across the boy, and it doesn't work the first time exactly. And so he does it again. He lays across the boy, and the boy is raised from the dead. So 2 really cool miracles. The third one, also pretty cool. There's this famine going on, and so these people are forced to eat this deadly, well, they don't know it's deadly. They're forced to eat these gourds in their stew, and they find out that it tastes terrible, and they say, there is death in the stew, right? It is killing the people. And so Elisha, he adds flour to the stew, and it purifies it and makes it not deadly anymore. So that's how chapter 4 ends. Chapter 5 is where we're going to jump into tonight. Just going to hit the highlights real quick. I'm going to do chapter 5. Jackson's going to do chapter 6. So if you see him sitting here, or one of us sitting here not talking, that's why. So chapter 5, there's a few highlights. We'll go over those real quick and then jump into a little more detail about each of those things. And so the first thing is Naaman. He is the commander of the army for Syria. It says he's a good man, but he has leprosy. And so they're like, hey, we know a guy. He just healed a bunch of people. You should go see him in Samaria. And so he travels there. The middle part of the chapter, Naaman's leprosy is healed. And then the last part of the chapter is Gehazi. I don't know exactly how you say that, but Gehazi gets greedy. This is Elijah's servant, and he runs and chases down Naaman and tells him he needs to pay for the healing that he was provided. So we are going to jump into each of those sections real quick. So like I said, the first part of the chapter, Naaman is the commander of the Lord's army for the king, not the Lord's army, for the king of Syria. And he was this great and honorable man, it says, in the eyes of his master, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. And he was also a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. So that's an important part of that. And so let me get over here to some maps for you. You can see. So Syria is over here to the east. Naaman is going to travel from Syria down to Samaria, which is the capital of the northern kingdom, right in there. So that's where he's going to travel to to see about Elijah helping him be healed. So let's get us back on the screen too. All right. So next, the next kind of section here. Let's see if I can get up there. All right. The king of Syria sends Naaman to Samaria. So we can read that section a little bit as well. New King James, as Bible Bowl is. 2 Kings chapter 5. We read verse 1 already. So the Syrians had gone out on a raid. He departed. He sent with him, right here. He sent with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 changes of clothing. Then he brought the letter to the king of Israel, which said, let me go back. Now be advised, when this letter comes to you, that I have sent Naaman my servant to you, that you may heal him of his leprosy. And it happened when the king of Israel read the letter that he tore his clothes and said, Am I a God to kill and make alive? That this man sends a man to me to heal him of his leprosy. Therefore, please consider and see how he seeks a quarrel with me. And so Elijah hears about this. It says, when Elijah, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, and that he had sent to the king, saying, Why have you torn your clothes? Please let him come to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. That's important. We'll highlight that again later down in verse 15, how he ends up knowing that as well. So Naaman went with his horses and his chariots and stood at the door of Elijah's house. Uh, 2 Kings 5 verse 10, we're going to skip down to there. And Elijah sent a messenger to him saying, so he's asking, Elijah, what do I do? What do I need to do to be healed of this leprosy? And he says, go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored to you, and you shall be clean. So he tells him exactly what he needs to do, and then he doesn't exactly like his answer. Jump back over there. Naaman became furious. Oh, you can't see that because we're in front of it. Let me move us here. Oh, I can't move us. All right. Just believe me. All right. Naaman became furious and went away and said, Indeed, I said to myself, he will surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and wave his hand over the place and heal the. And he's furious because he's basically saying, hey, aren't there a whole bunch of other rivers that we can do this in? Like, right? Why is there? Are there not the Abana and the Pharpar, the river of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean? He's like, hey, you sent me all the way down here, and all you're telling me to do is bathe, right? That's not a whole lot going on there, right? And so he turned and went away in rage, and his servants came near and spoke to him. And this is an important verse as well. Let's see, I think I have that one highlighted. Yeah, my father, if the prophet had told you to do something great, would you not have done it? How much more than when he says to you, wash and be clean. Right? So he's saying, hey, if the prophet of God tells you to do something, you should probably do it. And the same is true for us. If God tells us to do something, we should probably do it. And so he finally decides to do it, goes down to the Jordan River and dips 7 times, according to the saying of the man of God. And his flesh was restored like a flesh of a little child. Sorry, let's highlight that. So he went down and dipped 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God. And his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. So he was, you know how babies have like perfect skin? That's basically what's going on here, right? His skin is perfect now. It's smooth, soft, all that good stuff. And then the next verse, which is a very important verse, 2 Kings 2, verse 15, it says, Naaman has been healed, and he gives praise and glory to God. Right? So he realizes everything that's happened, and he gives praise and glory to God. So I think that's important verse to highlight, because he gives glory to God. That's awesome. You know, he realizes the amazingness of what has just unfolded with him being healed from his leprosy, and then gives glory to God in that moment. So, let's see. That's kind of the beginning of the chapter. I wanted to highlight one other thing here. See if I can get our map up. Not that map, this map. It shows, right, Naaman came from the east. Shows right here, Naaman is healed of his leprosy. And it's along the Jordan River. I'm not sure if that's exactly where it was. No one actually knows. But he came down to Samaria, to where Elisha was, and to the king. And then he goes over to the Jordan. So whether it's, way up here, or more likely, I would think it's more closer to Samaria, right in this area. So the next part of that chapter, let's see if I can get back over there, get us on the screen. All right. The next part of that chapter is the servant of Elijah, Gehazi, his greed in this moment. So he decides that Naaman needs to pay for this. So Naaman leaves, right? Elijah heals him. He sends him away. Naaman is on his way back to Syria, and the servant of Elijah decides he needs to chase him down and get money from him. So he goes down there and he tries to get money from him. It's like, hey, you need to pay for this thing that you did. And so, let me see if I can find that chapter there. Oh, we got really small again. Also, we're in a different language.
And we're in French. I did take French for 11 years in school, but I don't remember it that well.
Can you find that on your thing there?
Here, if you need chapter 5.
Yeah. So, we'll just look at it here. We got this Bible program messed up, and I don't know how to fix it. So we're going to look at it down here. But look at 2 Kings chapter 5, starting in verse 20. But Gehazi, the servant of Elijah, the man of God, said, Look, my master has spared Naaman the Syrian while not receiving from his hands what he brought. But as the Lord lives, I will run after him and take something from him. So Gehazi pursued Naaman. When Naaman saw him running after him, he got down from his chariot and asked him, Is all well? And he said, All is well. My master has sent me to get money from you. Skip down verse 23. Naaman said, Please take 2 talents. And he urged him and bound him 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 changes of garments, and handed them to 2 of his servants, and they carried them on ahead of him. And when he came to the citadel, he took them from their hand and stored them away in the house. So he goes, he tries to get money from Naaman. He returns back, and Elijah's like, Hey, where you been? And he's like, I haven't been anywhere. I've been here the whole time, right? So he lies to Elijah, and he said, Did you go and, obviously Elijah knew, he said, Did you go chase down Naaman and get some money from him? And he's like, No. And basically Elijah curses him at the end. He says, the very last verse of chapter 5, verse 27, he says, Therefore the leprosy of Naaman be upon you. Let's see, I think I have that verse in there. Yeah. So therefore the leprosy of Naaman shall cling to you and your descendants forever. And he went out from his presence leprous, as white as snow. So Naaman's healed of his leprosy. He returns. Gehazi gets greedy and chases down Naaman to try to get some money from him. And instead, he becomes leprous in his place. So, crazy ending to chapter 5. We'll jump into chapter 6, and hopefully I'll fix this Bible program while Jackson goes over that.
Yeah, so chapter 6, similar to chapter 5, we can break it down into 3 sections. We'll look at this map real quick. We can go back to that map. So if you look at the map, it may be hard to see from there, but Jeff was talking about...
Here, let me zoom in on here.
There we go.
Let me switch you over to the map where we can zoom in.
Okay, so you can see up there towards the top where Naaman was healed of leprosy. Some of that took place up in northern Israel. But for chapter 6, we're going to be looking at, it's going to start off in the Jordan River, somewhere probably around there. And then the middle section of the chapter is going to be in Dothan, where Elisha is. And then we'll make our way down to Samaria, where there's a siege and a famine that was happening at the time. So we'll jump over to some of the highlights of the chapter. There's 3 main highlights that we want to talk about from chapter 6. We'll start off with there's 2 miracles, and then there's the siege that we brought up. So the first miracle is where Elisha performs a miracle with an axe head, and that's going to be found in the first 7 verses of the chapter. So if you want to follow along, chapter 6, I'm going to read through those first 7 verses for us there, and that's where we're going to read about this miracle, something pretty interesting that happens there. So 2 Kings chapter 6, I'll read verses 1 through 7. It says, "And the sons of the prophets said to Elisha, 'See now, the place where we dwell with you is too small for us. Please let us go to the Jordan, and let every man take a beam from there, and let us make there a place where we may dwell.' So he answered, 'Go.' Then one said, 'Please consent to go with your servants.' And he answered, 'I will go.' So he went with them, and when they came to the Jordan, they cut down trees. But as one was cutting down a tree, the iron axe head fell into the water, and he cried out and said, 'Alas, master, for it was borrowed.' So the man of God, being Elisha, said, 'Where did it fall?' And he showed him the place. So Elisha cut off a stick and threw it in there, and he made the iron float. Therefore he said, 'Pick it up for yourself.' So he reached out his hand and took it." So I think that's a really fun story and cool story, just to imagine Elisha is there with the man, and the iron axe head falls into the water, and it sinks. Obviously, he's going to sink to the ground. This man was concerned about it, and he tells Elisha that this has happened. And so Elisha just goes over there, cuts off a stick, throws it into the water, and the iron axe head floats all the way to the top to where the man can just reach out his hand and grab it. So a pretty cool miracle that happens there. And then now we're going to jump into the next section. This is where God's army, his fiery army, surrounds Elisha and protects him. So I'll just kind of summarize this next section instead of reading all the way through it. But verses 8 through 23 is where we'll find this. The king of Syria is making war against Israel. And so he's consulting with his servants, and he's telling them, "I'm going to make my camp at such and such place." And he's telling them where they're going to go. And Elisha continues to tell the king of Israel, "You need to be aware when you pass this place, because the Syrians are coming down there." And so the king of Syria is concerned, and he has no idea how the king of Israel is finding out where they're going to be, because they're always on the watch. And so it frustrates him, and basically he's saying to his men, "Which one of you is telling on us? Which one of you is saying this?" In verse 11 he says, "Will you not show me which one of us is for the king of Israel?" Because this Syrian king is thinking the only way Elisha, or the only way that the king of Israel can find out where we're going to be, is one of you is leaking this information and going and telling him. But miraculously, somehow Elisha knows where the king of Syria is going to be. Even though Elisha's not there, Elisha's all the way in a different part in Dothan. He's, several 10, 20 miles away from where the king, or more than that, from where the king of Syria would be making these plans. But somehow Elisha knows exactly where he's going to be every time. And so I think that's an amazing miracle that Elisha is able to figure this out and then tell the king of Israel to be prepared before it happens. And so basically it goes on to say that the king of Syria still wants to attack Elisha, and so he sends out his servants to find out where he is. and that's where they say that he's in Dothan. If you look at verse 13, they come back and say, surely he is in Dothan. So we'll look at the map again and see where that is. So they were originally at the Jordan River. Now we're taking place in Dothan. And so they know where Elisha is, and they send to find him. And when he comes back and talks to the king, now they know where he is. And so they go to surround him. So the king of Syria sends out his men. He sends, verse 14 says he sent horses and chariots and a great army there. And they came by night and surrounded the city. Verse 15, and when the servant of the man of God arose early and went out, there was an army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. And his servant said to him, alas, my master, what shall we do? And Elisha acts calmly and says, probably my favorite verse of this chapter is, do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. Elisha knows that he's got God on his side, and he knows that he's going to be protected because although he's unable to see it, he knows that God's got his back, and so he says those that are with us are more than that are with them. And so his servant is not able to see it, and Elisha says, Lord, I pray, open his eyes. This is in verse 17. I pray, open his eyes that he may see. Then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So the Syrians had surrounded Elisha in the middle of the night to surprise attack him. But Elisha said, it's okay, because there's more of us that are with, more people with us than there are with him. And God's army had surrounded him. And so it's this army full of horses and chariots of fire that had surrounded the Syrians to protect Elisha. And so it's an amazing thing that happens there. And so Elisha prays that God will strike these people with blindness. Verse 18, it says, strike this people, I pray, with blindness. And he struck them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. So then Elisha takes them in. He says, this is not the way, nor is this the city. Follow me, and I'll bring you to the man whom you seek. But instead, he leads them to Samaria. And that's where we're going to see the rest of the chapter will be in Samaria. But this is important to note that Elisha brings them to Samaria. And so he takes them to the king of Israel. And the king of Israel is asking Elisha, should I... Yeah, so here's Samaria, the capital city. That's where they've traveled down to now. That's where Elisha led this Syrian army while they were blind. And so the army is there in front of the king of Israel. And the king of Israel asks Elisha, should I kill them? He says, verse 21, my father, shall I kill them? Shall I kill them?
We're in the way, just a second. Yeah, right there.
So the bottom of your screen, you should see verse 21, my father, shall I kill them? Shall I kill them? And then Elisha answers and says, you shall not kill them. Would you kill those whom you have taken captive with your sword and with your bow? But instead he throws a feast for them. He says, set food and water before them, that they may eat and drink and go to their master. So rather than killing them and taking their lives, Elisha says, no, in fact, let's feed them, give them food and water to drink, and then send them back to their master.
I love that. That's totally counter what you would think would happen. You're like, hey, we should probably get rid of these people. And it's like, no, you should welcome them with open arms.
Yeah.
So much foreshadowing of what Jesus tells us to do.
Yeah, well. I was going to say, sounds a lot like what we hear in the New Testament of Jesus saying, turn the other cheek or love your enemies. And we see Elisha showing that already here. So yeah, that's an awesome part of the story where Elisha had them in his control. He had them in his possession, led them to the king of Israel, and they could have done away with these people, but instead he feeds them and gives them water and sends them back on their way. So basically that's how the end of that section of this chapter happens, is that these Syrians go back. They go back to Syria, and they no longer attack Israel for some time. And we pick up in verse 24 with the last section of this chapter. Verse 24 says that it happened after this. It says after this. We don't know exactly how long that was of time, but it says it happened after this that the king of Syria had gathered his army and went up and besieged Samaria. So the capital city is where Elisha led them to, fed them, and then let them go back to their homes. And then later sometime the king of Syria gathers all of his people again and sends them back to Samaria to siege it, to surround it, and to be ready to take over it. And it says that they did siege Samaria.
So, just not to interrupt too much, but I didn't think about this before. The king, Nahum is the commander of the army of Syria, and he goes to Samaria to get healed. And now, a little time later, the king is sending his army to go siege Samaria.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. So you think Naaman's a part of that?
Naaman, yeah. Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, that's a good thing to know.
Like, after all he's experienced in Samaria, he's still going to go and, I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah. But that's what happens. They take over Samaria, take over the capital city of the northern part of Israel, and so they have surrounded them, and then Samaria is in a famine. And so if you have your calculators at home with you, grab those real quick. We're gonna give you a little bit of a opportunity to see if you can do a math problem, see if you can figure out something that we thought was kind of a fun fact here in chapter 6. So Jeff, if you want to go to the next slide, we'll look at what happens in the end of this chapter. There's a famine, people were starving, and so everything is obviously going to be more expensive because there's less supplies, resources for people to eat. So we want to ask you this question: is how much would it cost? How much do you think it would have cost to buy a donkey's head and dove droppings during the famine? This is obviously not something you would normally eat, just like on a regular weekly diet. But in famine, people are eating anything that they can, and so how much do you think it would cost to buy a donkey's head? You might be thinking, a couple dollars or $5 or whatever.
So that's here in verse 25. If you want to look at that.
Yeah, and so we've done some of the math for you to put up on the screen that a donkey's head would have cost 80 shekels of silver, and dove droppings would have cost 5 shekels of silver. And so in our modern U.S. dollars, 1 shekel would cost about $6.28. So if 1 shekel is $6.28, then how much would it have cost to purchase a donkey's head, and how much for the dove droppings? So try to do that math for you now, and
leave a comment for us if you got an answer to that. How much would it cost to buy a donkey's head and dove droppings during the famine?
And maybe throw in another comment there. How desperate would you have to be to eat a donkey's head or dove droppings? I personally have never been that hungry to imagine eating either of those, especially not when you find out how much it costs to buy one of those. So maybe you got the answer right now. Maybe some of you are still working on it. But I was surprised to hear how much it cost, and we'll go to the next slide. And if you're still getting your answer, go ahead and just throw that in the comments. But it would have cost roughly $502 in modern day U.S. dollars to pay for a donkey's head, and then dove droppings would have cost you almost $32 just to eat that. So it just gives you some context and some insight into what the situation was like in Samaria at the time. Obviously, desperate times. People were willing to eat anything. And we'll spare the rest of the chapter for you if you want to look at it with your family. There's some more behaviors similar to this that people were willing to eat gross things, and in a desperate time did some things that they would not have normally had to have done. And this troubles the king of Israel, some of the stuff that's going on. And there's a lady that he comes across that has been in a difficult situation with the famine, and so you can read about that. But this causes the king of Israel to be in distress, and he's frustrated with Elisha towards the end of the chapter. He's coming to Elisha, and Elisha is saying, don't let the messenger come in. His master is coming behind him. And the king of Israel is saying that surely this calamity or this disaster is from the Lord. Why should I wait for the Lord any longer? That's verse 33 at the end of this chapter. But it just goes to show that the king is frustrated with what's going on. Maybe he's frustrated with Elisha because they had these people in their grips previously when they were led blindly into Samaria, and that they could have taken over them or done away with them there. Maybe that's why the king is upset. But he believes that this, surely this is something from the Lord, this disaster that is happening to them. They're being besieged and they're in a famine, so desperate times. So that's kind of how chapter 6 ends. And next week we'll get into chapters 7 and 8 and see where the story picks up from there. But I know we're going to jump into some questions.
Lori says that is gross, Jackson.
It is.
That is very gross.
Definitely gross. I would.
I didn't think about it, but we're kind of in the middle of a pandemic right now. I mean, obviously it hasn't gotten that bad, but it's interesting that we're going over this chapter during that time, and so that is very gross. I would definitely never want to eat a donkey's head or dove dropping.
Yeah, I would say I'm thankful that the worst I've had to be concerned with during these times is maybe running a little low on toilet paper, but nothing like they were experiencing back then. So
Yeah, definitely.
we always have something to be grateful for.
So yeah, like Jackson said, we're gonna hopefully we gave you some highlights of that chapter pretty well that you can try to answer these questions. So we're gonna do this in typical Bible Bowl style. So we'll read the question twice and call time, and you'll put up a card. Jackson's got some cards. If you have a card, you can put those up. If you need cards, let us know. We will get those out to you as well. And so try to score yourself at home, see how well you do. And yeah, we got 25 questions for you. And then we will wrap up tonight. So the first question, in 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 1, in the eyes of his master, Naaman, the commander of the Syrian army, was A, brave and loyal, B, great and honorable, C, courageous and mighty. In 2 Kings 5:1, in the eyes of his master, Naaman, the commander of the Syrian army, was A, brave and loyal, B, great and honorable, C, courageous and mighty. Time. All right, Jackson got it right. 1 for 1 here. I might have to move us around here a little bit. We'll see on the next question. So in 2 Kings 5:2, what was the job of the young girl taken captive from the land of Israel? I don't think I actually did not highlight this. So there was a young girl that was a servant for Naaman's wife. So should be able to get the answer now. A, she served food to the Syrian army. B, she washed clothes in the king's palace. Or C, she waited on Naaman's wife. 2 Kings 5:2. What was the job of the young girl taken captive from the land of Israel? A, she served food to the Syrian army. B, she washed clothes in the king's palace. C, she waited on Naaman's wife. Time. Well, let's see. I think. Hey, there we go. All right. She waited on Naaman's wife. C is correct. 2 Kings 5:3. Who did the young captive girl from Israel say could heal Naaman of his leprosy? A, Gehazi, who is in Israel. B, the sons of the prophets. Or C, the prophet who is in Samaria. 2 Kings 5:3. Who did the young captive girl from Israel say could heal Naaman of his leprosy? A, Gehazi, B, the sons of the prophets, or C, the prophet who was in Samaria. Time. It was the prophet who was in Samaria, which is Elisha. So she was the young, I should have highlighted that a little more. She was the person that suggested Naaman go there to be healed. 2 Kings 5:7. How did the king of Israel respond when Naaman came to him to be healed of his leprosy? A, he tore his clothes. B, he was happy to heal him. C, he sent Naaman to the priest. In 2 Kings 5:7, how did the king of Israel respond when Naaman came to him to be healed of his leprosy? A, he tore his clothes. B, he was happy to heal him. C, he sent Naaman to the priest. Time. All right. It is A. He tore his clothes in response to that. All right. Question number 5. 2 Kings 5:10. I know for sure we went over this one. So, 2 Kings 5:10. What did Elisha's servant tell Naaman to do so that his flesh would be restored to him? A, sprinkle ashes on his skin. B, wash in the Jordan 7 times. Or C, call on the name of the Lord. 2 Kings 5:10. What did Elisha's servant tell Naaman to do so that his flesh would be restored to him? A. Sprinkle ashes on his skin. B. Wash in the Jordan 7 times. C. Call on the name of the Lord. Time. It was wash in the Jordan 7 times. You doing all right over there?
Yeah. I'm doing great.
All right, now it's my turn to try to answer the question. So Jackson's going to go over these other ones. Yeah, just get that arrow.
All right, question number 6. From 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 12. How did Naaman first respond to the directions given to him for healing his leprosy? A. He went away in rage. B. He immediately did all he was told. Or C. He went away happy to be healed. From 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 12. How did Naaman first respond to the directions given to him for healing his leprosy? A. He went away in rage. B. He immediately did all that he was told. Or C. He went away happy to be healed. Time. Correct answer is A. He went away in a rage. Alright, let's go verse 14. According to 2 Kings 5:14. When Naaman dipped 7 times in the Jordan River, what did his skin look like? A. The flesh of a little child. B. As white as snow. Or C. As smooth as the new baby's skin. According to 2 Kings 5:14. When Naaman dipped 7 times in the Jordan River, what did his skin look like? A. The flesh of a little child. B. As white as snow. Or C. As smooth as a new baby's skin. Time. Correct answer is A. The flesh of a little child. Good job. Hope you guys are following along well. Let's go verse 15. According to chapter 5, verse 15. After he was healed, Naaman said, Indeed, now I know that there is no God in all the earth except A. The God of the Hebrews. B. In Syria. C. In Israel. According to chapter 5, verse 15. After he was healed, Naaman said, Indeed, now I know that there is no God in all the earth except A. The God of the Hebrews. B. In Syria. Or C. In Israel. Time. Correct answer is C. In Israel. Very nice. Let's skip a couple verses. Go to verse 17. According to 2 Kings 5:17. What did Naaman want from Elisha after he was healed? A. An idol for the temple of Rimmon. B. 2 mule loads of earth. Or C. A burnt offering to sacrifice. According to 2 Kings 5:17. What did Naaman want from Elisha after he was healed? A. An idol for the temple of Rimmon. B. 2 mule loads of earth. Or C. A burnt offering to sacrifice. Time. Correct answer is B. Nicely done, Jeff.
I did not go over that one, so apologies on that. But you'll just have to read some of it on your own, I guess, to get it down.
Yeah. All right. Last one before we switch it off again. Let's go 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 27. What did Elisha say would cling to Gehazi because of his greed for Naaman's gifts? A. The curse of Ekron. B. The sickness of Israel. Or C. The leprosy of Naaman. According to 2 Kings 5:27, what did Elisha say would cling to Gehazi because of his greed for Naaman's gifts? A. The curse of Ekron. B. The sickness of Israel. Or C. The leprosy of Naaman. Time. Correct answer is C. The leprosy of Naaman. Good job.
All right. Well, that brings us through chapter 5, I believe, so. Or not. Just kidding. First, number 11, 2 Kings 5:23. What did Gehazi take from Naaman without the approval of Elisha? A. 2 talents of silver and 2 changes of garments. B. 30 pieces of gold and 5 sets of clothes. C. 2 horses and 2 chariots. 2 Kings 5:23. What did Gehazi take from Naaman without the approval of Elisha? A. 2 talents of silver and 2 changes of garments. B. 30 pieces of gold and 5 sets of clothes. C. 2 horses and 2 chariots. Time. It was A. 2 talents of silver and 2 changes of garments. All right, question 11. Into chapter 6 now. 2 Kings 6:6. What began to float when Elijah threw the stick in the Jordan River? A, 3 smooth rocks. B, an axe head. C, a hatchet. 2 Kings 6:6. What began to float when Elijah threw the stick in the Jordan River? 3 smooth rocks, an axe head, or a hatchet? Time. It is an axe head. Really cool miracle there. Yeah. All right, 2 Kings 6:8. This is question number 13. 2 Kings 6:8. Who is making war against Israel? A, the king of Damascus. B, the king of Syria. Or C, the king of Samaria? 2 Kings 6:8. Who is making war against Israel? A, the king of Damascus. B, the king of Syria. Or C, the king of Samaria? Time. It is B, the king of Syria. Number 14. 2 Kings 6, 9 through 11. Kind of comes from a collection of verses here. Why was the heart of the king of Syria greatly troubled? A, Israel was defeating Syria in battle. B, the king had a disturbing dream. Or C, Elisha warned Israel of the whereabouts of the Syrians. 2 Kings 6, 9 through 11. Why was the heart of the king of Syria greatly troubled? A, Israel was defeating Syria in battle. B, the king had a disturbing dream. Or C, Elisha warned Israel of the whereabouts of the Syrians. Time. It is C, Elisha warned Israel of the whereabouts of the Syrians. Number 15. 2 Kings 6:12. The king of Syria's servant said, Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your A, bedroom, B, heart, C, anguish. 2 Kings 6:12. The king of Syria's servant said, Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your A, bedroom, B, heart, C, anguish. Time. It is the words of his bedroom. The Hagwoods love you.
The Hagwoods. Thank you. I'm in chapter 6 now. I'm doing better. Let's keep going. We got 10 more questions here. All going to be from chapter 6. According to chapter 6, verse 13, the king of Syria sent horses and chariots and a great army to what town to capture Elisha? A, Samaria, B, Dothan, or C, Damascus? So according to chapter 6, verse 13, the king of Syria sent horses and chariots and a great army to what town to capture Elisha? A, Samaria, B, Dothan, or C, Damascus? Time. Correct answer is B, Dothan. We'll find later in the chapter.
Dothan first.
Yeah. They find Elisha and Dothan, and then we'll see what happens later in the chapter. According to chapter 6, verse 15, when the servant of the man of God arose early and went out, what did he see? A, the sun rising over Mount Carmel. B, an army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. Or C, smoke coming from Samaria. According to chapter 6, verse 15, when the servant of the man of God arose early and went out, what did he see? A, the sun rising over Mount Carmel. B, an army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. Or C, smoke coming from Samaria. Time. Correct answer is B. An army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. God's fiery army was, this first one is actually the Syrian army that was surrounding Dothan and Elisha, and so they had him surrounded. And then in verse 17, what did Elisha pray for his servant when he was afraid of the Syrian army surrounding him? A, give him courage that he may fight. B, make him strong that he may overcome. Or C, open his eyes that he may see. So in chapter 6, verse 17, what did Elisha pray for his servant when he was afraid of the Syrian army surrounding him? A, give him courage that he may fight. B, make him strong that he may overcome. Or C, open his eyes that he may see. Time. Correct answer is C. Open his eyes that he may see. Elisha wanted him to see the fiery army that God had provided as protection around him, and so his servant was allowed or able to see that after Elisha's prayer. Chapter 6, according to chapter 6, verse 17, what was Elisha's servant able to see after the Lord opened his eyes? May have given this one away. A, the elders sitting at the gate. B, heaven. Or C, horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. According to chapter 6, verse 17, what was Elisha's servant able to see after the Lord opened his eyes? A, the elders sitting at the gate. B, heaven. Or C, horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. Time. The correct answer is C. Kind of gave that one to you, but still know the right answer. That was how God provided for Elisha. Let's go to question 20. According to chapter 6, verse 18, why was Elisha able to lead the Syrian army into Samaria? A, they had been struck blind. B, they had been tied up. Or C, they needed water. According to chapter 6, verse 18, why was Elisha able to lead the Syrian army into Samaria? A, they had been struck blind. B, they had been tied up. Or C, they needed water. Time. Correct answer is yes. A, they had been struck blind. That's why they did not know where they were going, and Elisha was able to lead them to Samaria. So we'll switch roles
They
here.
just blindly followed, huh?
Yep.
All right. Last 5 questions, if you'll hang in there with us, and then we'll finish up tonight. Number 21 in 2 Kings 6:22. What did the Israelites do to the Syrian captives in Samaria? A, set food and water before them. B, prepared to kill them with the sword. C, took all their swords and bows. 2 Kings 6:22. What did the Israelites do to the Syrian captives in Samaria? A, set food and water before them. B, prepared to kill them with the sword. Or C, took all their swords and bows. Time. It is A, set food and water before them, right? Just like Jesus would do. Number 22, 2 Kings 6:24. Who gathered all his army and went up and besieged Samaria? A, Pharpar. B, Ben-Hadad. Or C, Baal-Shalisha. 2 Kings 6:24. Who gathered all his army and went up and besieged Samaria? A, Pharpar. B, Ben-Hadad. C, Baal-Shalisha. Time. It is Ben-Hadad.
Sorry, I don't know if I mentioned that name specifically, but if you read that last section of chapter 6, it is in there.
Yes. 2 Kings 6:31. Who did the king of Israel blame for the siege and famine in Israel? A, Gehazi. B, Naaman. C, Elisha. In 2 Kings 6:31, who did the king of Israel blame for the siege and famine in Israel? A, Gehazi. B, Naaman. C, Elisha. Time. It is C, Elisha. 2 more. 2 Kings 6:30. What did the king of Israel have underneath his clothes on his body? A, a white tunic. B, the gold from the temple. Or C, sackcloth. In 2 Kings 6:30, what did the king of Israel have underneath his clothes on his body? A white tunic. B, the gold from the temple. Or C, sackcloth. Time. It is C, sackcloth. Last question. 2 Kings 6:25. During the siege of Samaria, how much did a donkey's head sell for? A, 80 shekels of silver. B, 5 shekels of silver. C, 10 shekels of gold. 2 Kings 6:25. During the siege of Samaria, how much did a donkey's head sell for? A, 80 shekels of silver. B, 5 shekels of silver. C, 10 shekels of gold. Time. It is A, 80 shekels of silver. Or $502 approximately, right?
Yeah. That's one expensive donkey's head, that's for sure.
Yeah, if you were able to complete all those questions, maybe not get them all right, but comment how many you got right. We'll see. Maybe we can see who did the best out of everyone that was watching tonight. But yeah, we thank you for joining us. We're excited for the coming Bible Bowl, and we're hoping to get back and start preparing for that in person again. But in the meantime, this will serve as a way for you to prepare for that. Continue to read those chapters each week. Next week will be chapter 7 and 8, and I'm not sure who will be up here in the live stream, but it'll be exciting, I'm sure.
Same time next week, right?
Same time, 7 p.m. on Wednesday night. We'll go over that again. Also, I wanted to give a special shout out to Miss Cheryl Kilgore. She has been providing all these questions for us, so we thank her for that, and just thank you for your willingness to be a part of this and listen in. You got anything you need to add, Jackson?
No. Saw some of the comments coming in. Some people only missed 3. Some people only missed 1. Great job to you guys.
Lucas got 24. I don't know who Lucas is, but I'm proud of you, Lucas. Good job.
Miriam had 22. That's awesome. I know she's been keeping up with it well. Did really well last week as well. So
Yeah.
keep up with these, and I guess chapter 7 and 8 next week, right?
Yeah, chapter 7 and 8. We'll see who's the special guest. And yeah, thanks for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you all again real soon. We miss you guys. Love you guys. Bye.
Take care.